But if that was true, then it shouldn't be spreading in India, right? Because India, it's so hot right now. There were 3 cases there.
Iran?
Iran also is very hot, right? Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. Just this guy, right? Trump.
Yeah, he did everything.
Coronavirus? What virus? He was asked, like, what do you think about those 30 people who died in Iran? So he's like, somebody died? What? Like, what did they die? It's like, what?
He's a class.
You're so misinformed, right? So.
And then the secretary was telling, he didn't sleep for like 24 hours. So his excuse. Well, he has been doing that for the past 6 years. So.
Yeah, so it's like amazing.
How is Karthik at this? It's been a long time since I saw.
Yeah, he has a conflict. Means this time he has a conflict.
Oh, okay.
He's doing good. He's starting the meditation class.
Okay.
When he's at like second week, right?
Yeah, second week. Yeah.
Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, 8 to 9, and 9 to 10. Gina is going to start her class from April 5th. She's traveling to India. Hi, Kumar. Put it in the aeroplane mode. So exactly that same time somebody will call.
Did he already put it?
Yeah. So today we are going to discuss one of my most favorite verses in Bhagavad Gita. So we saw one verse already as the top 18 verses. We saw one verse already. This is the second verse, I would say. Karpanya doshopagata subhavaha praschanitvam dharma sammohdeva. That was the first verse. So, okay, we can get a little bit of chanting. 5 verses. So,
Do you want to record from now or after?
After chanting. No, I won't record my chanting. Okay, so we'll start from verse 10. 10 to 16 we will chant. Okay, so 10 is this. Tamuvacha Rishikeshaha Prahasanniva Bharata Senayorupayor Madhye Vishidantamidam Vachaha. Glance through the literal meaning. So that will make a huge difference. When you chant, if you glance through the translation, that's why it's written like that. So you'll get it. The whole Gita will come to you by chanting like that. So once the chapter 2 is over, we'll do the entire chapter chanting. You can read and make sure that you have any doubt. If you have any doubt on a particular verse, we'll make sure that we'll come back and clarify that. So Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha Natvevaham jatunasam Natvam neve janatipaha Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayamatah param Dehinosmin yatha dehe Kaumaram yauvanam jara
कौमारं यौवनं जरा
तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिर्
तथा
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति
धीरस्तत्र मुह्यते
मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय
मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखताः
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखदाः
आगमापायिनो नित्याः
आगमापायिनो नित्याः
तान् तितिक्षस्व भारत
तान् तितिक्षस्व भारत
यं हि न व्यथयन्ते ते
यं हि न व्ययन्ते ते
पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ
पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ
समदुःखसुखं धीरम्
समदुःखसुखं धीरम्
सोमृतत्वाय कल्पते
सोमृतत्वाय कल्पते
नासतो विद्यते भावो
नासतो विद्यते भावो
नाभावो विद्यते सतः
नाभावो विद्यते सतः
उभयोरपि द्रष्टोऽन्तः
उभयोरपि द्रष्टुन्तः
स्तनयोर्त्वत्वदर्शिभिः
सनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः
अविनाशितु तद्विद्धिम्
अविनाशिषु तद्विद्धिम्
येन सर्वमिदं ततम्
येन सर्वमिदं ततम्
विनाशमव्ययस्यास्य
विनाशमव्ययस्यास्य
न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हसि
न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति
Excellent. Sorry. If you were there, I would not have attempted this. Okay, so you know we can record Kumar. Okay, so 5 minutes recap. We will cover two verses. As I was explaining, today we will be covering one of the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita. So the second verse I would pick as the top 18 verses. We have seen already one. So just pay attention, make sure that you are completely crystal clear about the topics we covered so far. Krishna started addressing every human being. Arjuna is just a prototype. Through Arjuna, he was trying to address each one of us. So imagine that Krishna is talking to me. Remove Arjuna in between. Because if it is an advice given to Arjuna and not to me, Gita is lost. Okay? So first thing is, each one of you have a lot of problems in your life. So Krishna is going to address each one of us. So have your problems in your mind. Don't think about that Arjuna had this problem, Arjuna had that problem. That is Arjuna's problem and Arjuna is capable of dealing with that. What is my problem? And Krishna is going to talk to me. Otherwise, Gita would be an intellectual gymnastics. That's it. An intellectual entertainment. That's it. It won't solve our problem. So Krishna started addressing the fundamental human problem. The fundamental human problem is that I am subjected to sorrow. Remember, that is the problem we talked about earlier. That I am subjected to sorrow. I may have financial problem today. Tomorrow I may have an emotional problem. Day after tomorrow, definitely I am going to have a health problem. How long it can stretch? So how am I make myself resilient so that I'm not subjected to this sorrow? So Krishna started addressing the first problem, the fear of death. The whole problem can be categorized into two buckets. One is, I think myself is limited in terms of my longevity. So when the biggest fear of any living being, forget about any living being, is fear of death. It's a natural instinct that is programmed into your system to get out of that. And fear of death, supposed to be the greatest fear for anybody, everybody. So that issue is addressed. Just give me the attention and think through this, because don't make it as an intellectual understanding also, but just try to understand. The first thing he said was, there are multiple point of view for every problem, or every situation can be seen from multiple angle. And we said there is an absolute point of view and there is an empirical point of view. From an empirical point of view, I was born at a point of time and I'm going to die at a certain point of time. But that may not be the true point of view from an absolute level. I gave multiple examples. Every day you see the sun going down. That is my empirical experience. But reality is different. So I gave a definition, not me, but the scriptures always define what is that absolute perspective. Anybody remember that? He said, Trikala abadidam satyam. That which is not subjected to change at any point of time, depending upon the place or time or the means of instrument. That is what is satyam. So right now I'm sitting in the earth and looking at the sun. I see that the sun going down. But if I go to outer space, I see that the earth is spinning and going around the sun. So depending upon the place and the time, my experience got changed. So if I have a knowledge which is not subjected to negation, which is not subjected to modification, that is the absolute perspective. And Krishna said, from that absolute perspective, there is no birth or death for anybody, because your essence, your consciousness, your absolute, and there is no death or birth. And that entity or that dimension of you is known as Atma. And then there is an empirical dimension, which is you're born, you're this body, you're transacting through this body, and that is called the individual, the physical body, right? In between, there is one more stage, which is called the subtle body, or the loosely called as soul. So what happens is, when you die, what is getting there is one entity that is getting dead and gone. There is one entity that is getting transmigrated, and there is one entity that is not at all changing. That entity which is not at all changing is known as Atma, and that entity which is getting transmigrated is known as soul, or the subtle body, or Sukshma Sharira, and that entity which is beginning and growing and dying is known as body. So this is what we said. So from that perspective, at least intellectually, you have a hope that that is not everything. That is not a complete cessation of everything. And I said this cannot be proved. But I also made a comment that if you want to believe something reasonable. Look at the alternate point of views. Everything will fall flat in 2 seconds. And the power of this, I'll just give you one example. I was reading a book. The entire Western philosophers, there was one person who started speaking about this. You know who it is? Socrates. You know his final moments? He was given poison by the state. So everybody was crying. But look at the composure and the calmness in his attitude. And everybody was crying. He said, okay, those who want to cry, please go out of the room. And then one disciple of Socrates, his name was Crato, I believe, not Plato. There is another person who was an old person. He asked, hey Socrates, how do you want us to bury you? Imagine, the person has not yet taken the poison yet. He's about to drink the poison and somebody is asking you, how do you want us to bury you? I was astonished by the answer given by Socrates. He said, for that, my dear friend, you have to get hold of me. If you're asking about my body, you can do it whatever you do with the other people. Look at the language.
Mhm.
So there is a famous book, unfortunately I forgot the name. It is talking about the life of Socrates. It is written by a famous German author. He said, if you want to understand Socrates, first you have to understand the Upanishads. Because sometimes what happens is, Plato, in his books, he said, what state is this? The state of Athena. The most finest citizen of the state was killed, poisoned by the state itself. And Bertrand Russell said about this. Sometimes if you speak ahead of the generation, what is going to happen? Yeah, you will be killed.
Yeah.
This has happened to everybody. This has happened to Christ.
Yeah.
This has happened to everybody. Except in India. In India, there was a Charvaka who used to criticize every thought. And he was revered as a sage. And in Valmiki Ramayana, I love this. So in the Rama Rajya, Rama sends Lakshmana just to make sure that, means it's a big country. So each of these territories, how people are doing. When he came back, the first question Rama asked is, how these Charvakas are doing? Their safety, their well-being is ensured. That's why Rama is called Vigrahavan Dharma. So let me come back to the topic. The topic is, if you are endowed with this knowledge, if you are in this knowledge, you will get that strength of Socrates.
Rajaji, I had a question.
Yeah.
So, like you were saying that if you have to believe something reasonable, and the alternate to this particular theory, that like with death everything ends, that falls flat. Can you explain how that is the case?
No, not just that. I was talking about the alternate theory of the souls, right? So the soul will be in a suspended animated state, and you will be judged based on just one life. Alternate theory is, right? So again, you cannot prove it, scientifically prove it, no doubt about it. But what exactly is the conservation of matter tells you?
It's either energy
Matter cannot, conservation of matter.
Cannot be created or destroyed.
Yeah, it can be transferred from
One state to
one
another.
form to the other.
Yeah.
What is the conservation of energy tells?
Energy is neither created nor
Nor be destroyed.
Same thing.
So every fundamental building block in the universe, let me put it in the scientific terms. The fundamental building block in the universe that is used to make you cannot be created, cannot be destroyed. So we are also not saying that Rajesh as an entity will survive. Mind you, as an entity, Rajesh, it is the body. But something in me survives based on the same logic. Because the science talks about only matter and energy so far. So that even that itself is not coming to an end.
It's consistent.
Yes. Have you heard of the famous statement of the scientist? Nothing happens nothing is lost when a candle burns. Correct? Something is going, the existence in you is not coming to an end. So suppose somebody dies, what is going to happen? You burn him. What is going to happen? Eventually, where it goes back? To the earth. And some liquid components will be vaporized. When you burn, that is what is happening. That is why if you mean some agnostic person was telling, like, you weigh one person, you have 230 pounds. After you burn, if you weigh the ash, it is much less. So they try to detect something. No, when you burn, something gets vaporized. So you have to be scientific. If you are scientific, you have to be precisely scientific. You cannot be half scientific. So based on all the conservation, law of conservation in physics, clearly it tells that death is not an existence of everything. Something will come to an end or something will change from one form to the other. If you're thinking yourself as this particular entity, definitely there is coming to an end. I already gave three dimensions. One entity has a beginning, growth, and an end. Second entity has transmigration. Third entity, no change at all. So this is very clear. I think we spent enough time, 3-4 weeks, to make this point very clear. Because why? This is probably the most confusing thought in our scriptures, right? Because several people have several different understanding on this. So if that is clear, we talked about another verse. So before that, we said Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkhata Agama Apaino Anityaha Tam Titikshasva Bharataha. So we saw that. So that is the last verse we saw. But before that, what was that? Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. The body has a continuous change. And finally, the body will come to an end. What is going to happen? Dehi and deha are the two different aspects we try to differentiate. Dehi means the possessor of the deha. When you say dehi, it can be interpreted as subtle body or atma. In this particular case, it is subtle body. The subtle body will acquire a new body. So there is the thira. Thira is what? I said the different meaning here. Thira means thiraha dhiman, the one who is with intelligence. Thi means intellect. So the one who makes use of the intellect properly, not kapola kalpitam, right? Sometimes the skull starts thinking. Here the gray matter and white matter is working. The person who can think properly, he will not get too much extremely depressed about death. Yes, there is a change and you have to accept and manage that change. And sometimes you have to accept that change. But that doesn't mean it is the end of the world. And then in the last week, we saw the next verse. That doesn't mean that when you leave, you are problem free. Every day, right from mosquito bite to the nagging teen, to the problematic boss, to the coronavirus, everything is a problem. So you cannot say that you're free from problem. So we saw that when the sense organs contacts with the sense objects, in other words, every life experience will generate physical pain or pleasure. What is that? Shita and Ushna, heat or cold. Heat means good, cold means bad, or whatever it is. Different experiences it creates. Some of them could be pleasant, some of them could be unpleasant. And emotionally, Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukha. And what is the nature of this? They'll come and go. Agama, Apainaha. They come and they will go. So, what is the discipline Krishna asked us to develop? Something called Titiksha. We spent a lot of time about that. I gave the definition. What was the definition, if you remember? Sahanam, Sarva Dukkhanam, Apratikara Purvakam, Chinta Vilaparahitam. An endurance, not cursing everybody from God to ant. So I explained, I paused there and I went back to modern science, psychology, and I talked about two aspects about pain. One is threshold of pain, and I talked about tolerance of pain. And I show based on the modern science discovery that this tolerance of pain can be improved with practice. The tolerance of pain is determined by so many factors and it can be improved. So, with that, let's continue. Otherwise, we'll be stuck in this verse always. Okay, so Titiksha, all it is there. Okay, so this is the definition of titiksha. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha nigadyate. This is the classic definition of titiksha by Shankaracharya. Okay. So we talked about this last week. I know that the connection went, you didn't see this, but this is what I was talking. The pain tolerance, and that can be improved. We saw that. Okay, so with that, let's go to verse 50. Would you mind chanting? Yeah, 50. We started chanting last week. Now we chant some 7 verses every week.
यं हि न व्यथयन्ते ते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ समदुःखसुखं धीरं सोऽमृतत्वाय कल्पते.
Excellent. So the English translation is also given. He whom these things do not afflict. If you want, you can chant it exactly in Anushtup. This is composed by Swami Tadatmananda. It's a brilliant composition. That wise one, O leader of men, is fit for immortality. So, what exactly is the attitude of the person who is going through the troubles of life? Yam hina vyatayante. The one who is yam means yaham is a Sanskrit pronoun. In normal languages, how many pronouns you have? First person, second person, and third person. In Sanskrit, we have a universal pronoun. Universal pronoun is called yaham. If you use that word yaham, it indicates everybody in the universe. It's a brilliant idea. It's not talking about Indian, it is not talking about male, it is not talking about a spiritual seeker, every human being. Most of these rules of Gita is applicable to every human being. So that's where you can see these pronouns are repeatedly used. I'm just quoting to say that sometimes people say that this is used by only a particular class of people, which is wrong. That is why you will see this. Yam hina vyatayante. He, whoever he be, that's all. He could be a chandala, he could be a saint, it doesn't matter. He, whoever, yam hina vyatayante. He who is not getting depressed or disturbed, extremely depressed with the changing situation of life. How? Not by suffering, through titiksha, because we are talking about a discipline we are developing. What exactly is titiksha? On a high level, it is the tolerance of your pain. With an understanding. What is that understanding? This experience is temporary and this experience will go away. With that understanding, he who faces the life without getting extremely depressed, Purusham Purusharshapha. Purusha Rishabha. What is Rishabha? Technically, literal meaning is bull. Bull among the man. This is a Sanskrit usage, meaning like the lion among the man, like the best among the man. That's what it means. Purusham, he Purusha Shapha. Such a person, what is his characteristics? Sama Dukkha Sukham Thiram. Thiram means again wise person. Don't think that Thira is courageous person without intellect. That's not the case here. Thiraha Dhiman. Shankaracharya explains brilliantly. Dhiman means the one who is endowed with intelligence. Sama Dukkha Sukham Thiram. What is the characteristics of the person with titiksha? He will be equipoised in Sukha and Dukkha. When Sukha happens, what is our characteristics? We are related, top of the world. When small things goes down, miserable. And what is our definition of being happy?
Everything working according to our wish.
Exactly. My financial status should be this much. Boss should be behaving exactly the way I want. The stock market should be moving exactly the way I require. Viruses around me should not touch me, at least, or my family. And the teens should be behaving
As per my wish.
as per my wish. And finally, spouse would be smiling exactly like I want. Too much smile is a problem. You're worried.
What's going on?
Yeah, what is going on? No smile is also a problem. And what is the probability of making all these things at the same time? Zero, almost. It's like making 25 cats lining up exactly in the same position. You try hard and put the first cat, the other cat is gone.
So then, how do we apply this to our lives?
That you know that it's something not everything is not going to be right always. Because you think that there will be a tomorrow. Most of us have a concept on retirement. By the time I retire, I'll be happy. Last week also somebody was talking. I'm waiting for my retirement.
Endless happiness chase. It's like chasing a mirage.
Correct. And I told, right, it means I always use your example. That's a brilliant one. Do you mind repeating that example? His definition of, if you don't mind.
Not at all. No, when I was in, I think it was my first year engineering or so, ultimate aim was to get a 4-figure salary, that is 1,000 rupees, and to get a job in a company like Wipro, and to own a moped. TVS moped was the thing then. You know, that would have made me, ultimate
Heaven.
best in life. But
Yeah, you know that. Don't laugh at him. Each one of us are like that. I can tell you that if I could think, when I was studying, if I could think where I am right now, I thought it would have been ultimate.
Absolutely. I can relate to that totally. Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So things will go, things will take its own course of action. That doesn't mean that you have to sit here. Don't try to reinvest because I don't believe, I know that things are going to happen. No, you have to make every effort to invest your money properly. You have to make every effort to make your spouse happy. You have to make every effort to make sure that your workplace is conducive. In spite of that, if something goes wrong, have the endurance. That's the right attitude of life.
I think to connect happiness with the outcome of something is what we are doing
Right.
But that's natural also.
Correct. But we have to go, sometimes we have to go against the nature. So I was listening to a course, means I'm doing a course called Buddhism and the Modern Psychology. It is conducted by Princeton University. It's a very, very good course. This professor was telling exactly the same thing. He takes it as the, it's a teaching from Buddhism, which is very much the same as that of this. They say that your definition of happiness is wrong. That's where the problem happens.
Yeah, but Rajaji, if we were not result oriented, right?
I didn't say.
No, result-oriented.
Let's go one step at a time. I didn't say that you should not look for result. I should not say that you should not be result oriented.
But
But
we lack of ambition. Lack of ambition is connected with happiness.
Yeah. But Kailash, unless we are okay, so what I was saying, that being result oriented, right? Aren't we result oriented because we associate happiness with the outcome?
No.
Because they're searching for happiness outside.
Just wait for verse 47. I'm going to give you the exact verse also, which is going to address this topic. It is the ultimate verse which is being quoted even in the modern corporate seminars. So we'll wait for that. But let's say that one thing for the time being, I just wanted to limit to the topic. The topic is comfort and happiness are two different things. Last week also I talked about this. He said you can be comfortably unhappy and uncomfortably happy. I'm not using the play of words, but it's a fact. Correct? So if that was the case, these slums, if you go, people should not be even laughing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may feel that people are more happier there.
Yeah.
If you go to some villages, you'll feel people more happier. That doesn't mean that you should go there and live in that slums. You have to develop your mind in such a way that it can handle everything. Logically, it makes sense, right? That's what everybody should be trying for. So, samadukha sukham thiram, the person who can approach everything with equanimity. That doesn't mean that tomorrow you won't cry. Not at all. If some tragedy happens, you will cry, but
Natural.
which is natural. Rama cried. Rama cried. Rama cried. Rama was crying a lot.
But that's contradictory also, no?
It is
Like-
not. It is not. Just means we'll come to that topic.
Mhm.
It is, means apparently it is contradictory, right? When you cannot, if you think that this is going to make you a rock, Krishna will tell later point of time, it is better to be an emotional person rather than being a rock. You have to be sensitive. But what is that sensitivity we are going to see in the second chapter, later verses, and the third chapter? We are going to see that a lot. Third chapter is a psychology manual by itself. The third chapter of the Gita.
Because I find this also very confusing. Like this is saying that don't associate your, if what I understood, I could be wrong. Don't associate your state of mind with the results
No,
of
no.
Your happiness. is
If
happiness, state of mind.
So what happens is when you buy a BMW, till you buy the BMW 7 Series, you're wanting. You're constantly saying, if I get that, I'll be very happy.
Mm.
But the moment you walk into the showroom to buy it,
Mm.
your happiness is gone already.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah,
Absolutely. It's transitory.
so the point is the happiness. I think we discussed this. You were not there in that initial classes. So one of the topic we discussed, which will come back a little bit later, is what is happiness? We defined that from various angles. If you remember, we started with positive psychology. We went through the neurology. What is happiness? We defined. And how do you feel happy in a situation? We have seen. For example, if you're craving for a BMW,
Yes.
what is going to happen? When you go there, that would put a state transition of your mind into, let's say that your mind is in a state alpha for you to be happy. Today, X, Y, and Z can trigger you to that state. Tomorrow, it will be ABC.
Yes.
So if you can develop a methodology or a tool by which, without any of the external aid, you can get into that alpha, you can be happy always.
But wouldn't that kill your ambition?
No, that's the point. You're going to see that. So you think that right now, that is what is triggering you to work. Absolutely no. Absolutely no. There's a difference. Have you seen Vivekananda working? Have you seen all these masters working? 24/7 with much more efficiency. So let's wait till Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is this topic. We are jumping ahead too much. When you come back to Karma Yoga, we are going to discuss this topic one by one. So right now, it's again, I said, we are talking only about the what's. Why, what, and how. We have to address like that order. So we are talking about what, and we are going to see how when you go to the yoga part. So right now, why we are doing it? We wanted to make sure that we wanted to be happy. We wanted to get out of that problem. What is that problem? I'm subjected to sorrow. So why we are doing it is clear. What we have to do is we have to understand a few things. And then how I can implement that. That is where the yoga. So up to verse 38, Krishna is going to give you the what. And from verse 38 to 52, he's going to, very high level, he's going to see the how. The how part is known as yoga. And the what part is known as Sankhya. Okay, so right now let's cover the Sankhya and then we'll go to yoga. I know that all of you are curious to know the how, but we'll come. That's the whole Gita is there, right?
Question on Sankhya. Sankhya means numbers, right?
See, Sankhya, one meaning is number. Sankhya means logic. It's a means, see, Sanskrit, you cannot, means every local vernacular may have one meaning.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you one example, good example last week. You're a computer programmer, your colleague comes and tell you that select all the sales from that table.
Yeah.
And if a ordinary person in the street hears that, what would he interpret? Where is the table?
Where can I? Yeah.
So you have to look the meaning at the appropriate places. So all the Vedic thing, you have to look at, there is a dictionary for that. And that dictionary is known as Nirupta, written by Yaska. So modern days, what happens is some of these people who criticize these books, they look at the ordinary transactional meaning of certain words and try to criticize it. For example, Brahman, Karma. All these words have its own big dharma. Some people say that dharma as a religion, and some of the Bhagavad Gita translations I see, like wherever they use dharma, they use religion. How pathetic is that? That's why we have to study Gita with a teacher. Remember, we discussed it. Okay, so let's come back to the verse. Yam hina vyatayanteti, the one who is not extremely affected. Purusham Purushashabha, that is the best among the man. Samadukha Sukham Thiram. So, Sa Amritatvaya Kalpate. He is prepared for attaining the highest goals of life. So, this equanimity or this control of the mind is a prerequisite for the higher goals of life. What is the higher goals of life? Freedom from all sufferings. Moksha. That's what I translated into a moksha. You have a different meaning. That's why I was translating that into a very ordinary language. You want freedom from, you don't want to, what was the problem I defined? You are subjected to sorrow. Freedom from all that risk. Moksha is not something that is happening somewhere in extraterrine experience. No, not that. It is, right now I am subjected to sorrow. Right now, I need some motivation to work, as you said. Correct? Without that promotion, or without that hike, or without that smile from my child, I cannot work. How can I go? So what is the problem? The moment you have that smile, if that smile is an absolute must-have requirement for you to love your child, the moment that smile goes, problem will come. So how do you get, so that means you are subjected to sorrow. They say, right, don't put the key of your happiness in
Somebody else's hands.
Somebody else's pocket. Don't put the key of your happiness in somebody else's pocket. Don't put the key of your well-being in somebody's smile. Exactly that much smile you want, that is a risk. If you're simple management, risk management, what do you try to do? It's a known unknown. Okay, your happiness is dependent upon the smile of your child. So that means it's a risk. It's a known unknown. What is that unknown? If she don't smile at you, what is going to happen?
I'll be unhappy.
You're vulnerable there. We wanted to get out of that. And when you are vulnerable, what is going to happen? Can you love her properly? All your love, all your actions will be centered around making her smile. So you cannot do what needs to be done even for her benefit. So this is the problem. And think logically. This is what take our emotions apart and think logically here. And that does not, mind you, tomorrow onwards, you won't stop loving anybody. You will love more. That much is guaranteed. You will love and you will feel loved more. Right now, what happens? They are also tensed because they cannot express themselves freely. So thus, a lot of ifs and buts are there in love, and that is not real love. So the so-called great love that is attributed in movies, they are not love. Truly speaking, they are all some emotions. That's it.
Conditional love.
Yeah, it's all no. That's because it's all
Because there's
subjected to
expectation.
sorrow.
Because you're expecting from the other person all the time. Right?
Everybody has some expectation, but that expectation is not a common. It will not put you depressed. The moment that I understand, that is the attachment. Attachment, the word attachment used in Gita is not that, okay, tomorrow onwards, I don't expect anything from my child. You don't expect any good grade. You don't expect her to behave you properly. That's not what we are meaning. Right? You're saying that if she don't get that A plus, if that going to put me into a terrible mental state, that is an attachment. If you don't get that hike, that is try for the hike. You will try everything. In the third chapter, Krishna will tell, just to fast forward and give you a little bit of consolation, Krishna will tell, this master, he will work more than the person who is a samsari. He will try for that promotion much harder than you try. But the difference is, if that promotion is not given, yeah, he will move on. He will recalculate what is the next possibilities and he will try for that. Whereas you and I, what is going to happen? Disheartened and we are down. That's what it is. And in modern world, this is known as emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. It is the ability to detach yourself from your emotions and manage your emotions. That is one definition of so-called emotional intelligence. It is an ability to self-aware, meaning what type of emotions are in me, and it is an ability to control your emotions. So what are the 4 pillars of the modern emotional intelligence defined by Daniel Goleman? Self-awareness, self-control. What is the third one? Social intelligence, meaning how do I relate with a person? You might be an aggressive person, I might be a very much analytical person. An analytical person, when he tries to relate with an aggressive person, it will not work. Let's say that your manager is an analytical manager, or you are an analytical person. You will go to his office with all the details. Why this calculation, this model is like this, these are the facts, and he is an aggressive person. He won't, what is his personality? He won't look all those things, he will just look at the bottom line, right? And what is your characteristics? You try to explain him, okay, A plus B equal to C, and then Y is going to influence 30%. It will not go. On the other hand, if you are an aggressive person, your manager is an analytical person. You go there with, you have to do X, Y, Z. He'll say, wait a minute, explain me. So if you are not relating, so there is a science. There is a science called social styles. So you have to understand what exactly is the characteristics of other person and try to relate him. If you go there with your assumption, you are going to fail. And you would see this in Gita later point of time. You will see this. So that is social intelligence. By the way, anybody is interested, go and read social styles. It's a big, huge topic in modern management. Social style, analytical driver, then analytical driver analytic, there are some different categories and they have already defined. There is a test you can take. It will tell you what analytical style is. For example, my style is analytical style. They graded me like that. I had undergone that training. And other person, then they say like, how can I relate to an aggressive person? A driver person? I can easily. But I need to know that. I need to know that, yeah, I'm talking to a person who is not interested in details. Just give him the points and move on. And when I try to an analytical person, I can relate him with well. And the last pillar of emotional intelligence is called empathy. You need to understand. If you want, go and watch these brain games in Netflix. You will see, they will show a situation and they will ask you what exactly is the feeling you have for that other person. Most of the people will hate him, but they will show what is his background. Immediately your feeling will change. So this empathy We will see in Gita later point of time, Krishna calling out all these things separately. So you all will pay thousands of dollars, $2,000, $3,000 for getting these in EI training, correct? And Gita is really available to you thousands of years back. Okay, that's fine. That's the property we all inherited. At least we need to know that this is something that we all inherited. So yam hina vethayantete purusham purushashabha samadukha sukham dhiyam sa amritatvaya kalpate. He is ready for the highest goals of life. Extending this, what is the highest goal of life? Moksha. But even you want to get a promotion, look at a CEO, how he became the CEO. Nobody is promoted as a CEO on day one. Lot of hard work, lot of effort, lot of discipline. A CEO, when a small news comes in, he falls flat. He cannot be a CEO. He cannot be a CEO. He has to face that challenges of life. Get about it, get over it. And I like one of the comments of Shakespeare. Shakespeare says, Shakespeare is amazing, right? Like Kalidasa has written a wonderful sets of verses. One of the things he tells is a courageous man, he experienced death once, only once. What about you and I? Every day he are dying. Vivekananda also said in a different language, man dies but once. It should be like that. Okay, so this is what it is. So this verse, the details I already provided, the right attitude and how to pass the trials of life. One good point I wanted to make here is a prayer. There is a prayer called the Serenity Prayer. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
This is a prayer we all should do. This is the attitude of the Thera. There are three situations in life. One is, oh God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change. Tvam titikshasva bharata. Right? Then what is that? Give me the courage to change what I can change. Tasmat yuddhasya bharata. Next verse is coming to that. Krishna is telling. Then, what is the biggest quality you need?
Wisdom.
The wisdom, which tells you what can be changed and what cannot change. A typical human being will make every attempt
To change things he cannot change.
Exactly. And don't do anything
Where he can.
where he can control. People will comment how the world leaders could be, right? How different Trump was, how different Modi was, how different the governor was, how different my boss was, or how different all the different people are, and how different my spouse is, or how different is my child is. What about you? Okay. So this is a prayer made by a preacher or by a priest here in 1940s. I forgot his name.
Roland.
Yeah, Robert something, right? But it is never attributed to him. That is very sad. So many people take ownership. This is a priest, a Christian priest here, started using this prayer in his sermon. But you have to appreciate good thoughts from everywhere.
The names at the bottom.
Yeah.
Roland.
It is there. It is in OneNote. I have given the history. All the notes are there, so you can read that. Okay. So this is the summary. Okay, so let's go to the 16th verse. We cannot finish it today. Means next week we can finish it, but I will give a little bit of introduction. You can chant.
नासतो विद्यते भावः नाभावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तः त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः.
This is considered as one of the most important verse of Bhagavad Gita. At least my pick. So this we have to understand properly. This is talking about the nature of the Atma. So literal meaning we will see. Na asato vidyate bhavaha. Vidyate means know that. It came from the root vid. Veda also came from that root. It means to know. So know that. Na asat. Asat means there are two terms defined here. One is sat and one is asat. Loose translation is unreal and real. Loose translation. Everything is loose. So unreal, there is no existence. Krishna is telling. For real, there is no non-existence. And he tells the people, the seers, the people who have seen the truth, they understood this very well. That is the literal meaning. Very simple, very cryptic looking words. We'll have to understand, unpack and understand every verse of it. Krishna telling, unreal has no real existence. Real has no non-existence. And the people who understood both what is real and what is unreal, they understood this. That's all. So let's try to see this. We may have to go back to, I would say, to the whiteboard and try to see this. I would say, let's take a simple example. So, already I explained, everything can have two different viewpoints. One viewpoint is called absolute viewpoint, and the second viewpoint is called relative or the empirical viewpoint. So let's take a simple example. Simple example meaning this is the most stock example. Stock example means it is used right from Shankaracharya's time onwards. So I'm going to give you a stock example. Example is pot and the clay. So pot and clay, let's take. Let's try to understand the two different point of views. How a pot is made. You take a lump of clay and you make a pot, and once you make that pot at a certain point of time, before the creation of the pot, was there clay? Correct? Clay was there. At this point of time, what happened? The pot is there. So this is, I'm going to put this axis as t, time. As time passes, one day the pot had a hole and eventually the pot got broken. So I could say that this is the birth of the pot and this is the death of the pot. After the death of the pot, what is going to happen? Again, the clay is still there, right?
It doesn't change.
Clay doesn't change. Second stock example. You have a gold ring in your hand. Extending the same example, time. Let's say that in 2010, this ornament was created, the ring. Before that,
Gold was there.
gold was there. And say you're selling this in 2025. It's not your wedding ring or anything like that, right? It's a, let's say, understand that it is not. I have to be very careful on all the words. No, you're not like that. Sometimes you give an example, some people, it will kill their sleep. Or some people make them happy. So after that, what is going to happen? The
So they-
gold
yeah.
will continue to exist.
Yeah.
Especially these ladies in olden time, they cannot stay with one ornament for some time, right? So you have a chain, that chain becomes a, a ring or an earring, whatever it is, a bangle, all that will happen. So I can say that the life or the longevity of that ornament or that golden ring was 10 years. Before that, something was existing, right? What was that? Gold. And after the death, sorry, after the ornament goes,
Gold still exists.
now, third example.
But even in the, when it's a ring, the gold is still there, just a different.
I'm
form.
coming to that point only. Excellent, right? Let's limit with these two examples. During the life of that port, what happened to clay?
It is found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now let's try to understand one important concept. There are two properties for any object. Any object has two properties. One is called intrinsic property. What is the other property they call? Incidental property. I'll give you a simple example for this. Just give me the full attention. This is a complicated subject, but it can be understood very well. Means this is not something that we cannot understand. So let's say that you have a hot potato, or a hot coffee, or a hot water is there. And if you put your hand in that water, what is going to happen?
Boy.
Yeah, heat is there. From where that heat got, the water got the heat?
The fire.
What that heat, the property of heat, is that an inherent property?
Incidental.
It's a borrowed property.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take a fire, why do you keep your coffee in a flask? Because it's not an inherent property. So, if I say that, taking that same example of logic, what was the existence of that pot?
Incident.
Clay, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The pot didn't have its own existence. The existence of the pot was borrowed from
The clay.
clay. In other words, what is the that's taking the same definition, right? If the fire was not there, the water would not have got
Boiled.
boiled.
Yeah.
Like that, the pot would not have existed if the clay was not there. Correct? If the gold was not there,
No ornament.
no
No
golden ornament.
No golden. Yeah.
If the water was not there, there would not have been a wave. So the existence of that pot came from clay. Correct? The existence of that gold ornament came from gold. The existence of that big wave came from water. In other words, if I say the pot is nothing but the clay in a different form. Do you agree?
Yes.
And I could say the pot would not have an existence without the clay. Right? I can say that the clay has an independent existence, whereas the existence of the pot
Is dependent on the clay.
clay. Correct? In other words, I can say the existence of the pot is a borrowed existence. That existence is borrowed from clay. The existence of the gold ornament is entirely dependent upon the gold, and the existence of the gold ornament is borrowed from the gold. In other words, if I take the gold away from the gold ornament, nothing remains. If I take all the cotton from your shirt, of course, if it is a cotton shirt, nothing exists. Right? If I take away all the clay from that pot, now I'm going to tell a complicated technical term. Now you'll understand. I can say that the pot is a name and form only. The actual existence is what? Is that difficult? The golden ring is a name and form which has a beginning. So now come back to this verse. What Krishna is telling. What is Asat and what is Sat? The Upanishads defines what is Asat and what is Sat. The definition is very simple. That which exists all period of time is Sat. Sat. The definition is that. So 1 hour, that's fine. That which exists all period of time is Sat. That which existed in the past, that which existed in the present, and that which existed in the future is Sat. So in this particular example, assume that it's a relative Sat. The clay also has a beginning, but if you limit yourself to some 20 years period, the clay was there yesterday. The clay will be there tomorrow. But the pot was there in between. So what is the definition of Asat? The Asat is that which was not there in the past, that which has a relative existence. If you say that the pot doesn't exist, that is wrong. This is one of the most misinterpreted idea in Vedanta. People say Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, the world is unreal, ignorant. No, Krishna didn't say that. He used the word only Asat here. Asat means that which was not there yesterday, that which appears to exist, or that which exists only for a shorter period of time, whereas that existence is borrowed from something else, right? And which will not have an existence tomorrow. That is Asat. And what is this verse tells? Nasate nasato vidyate bhavaha. Bhava means existence. Asat truly do not have any existence. In other words, the existence of Asat is always borrowed from. So I can say that the clay, really speaking, the existence appears to have, whatever existence the clay appears to have is borrowed from clay. Whatever existence the ornament has appears to have is borrowed from gold. Whatever existence the wave appears to have is borrowed from water. So, nasato vidyate bhavaha. Know that the asat truly don't have an existence. Whatever existence the asat has is borrowed from sat. And for sat, there is not a time it doesn't exist. Because if it stopped to exist, it cannot be called as sat. Upayor api drishtondaha. Anta means the complete. Upaya means both. Upaya Jivi is frog. Why? It lives in both water and earth. Right? So Upaya means both. The one who knows both. Both here means Sat and Asat. So the one who knows both, Upayor api drashtondaha, the one who has seen both, Upayor api drashtondaha stanayor tattvadarshibhi. The one who knows the truth has seen both. In this particular case, our physical body is Sat or Asat?
Asat.
Asat. Whereas the Atma, Sat, because it do not have any change. Atma, not the subtle body, because the subtle body also has a beginning and end. So understand that the Atma in you is Sat. It do not have any change. And the Anatma, which is your body, The real existence of your anatma is borrowed from atma. If the atma is not there, there's no existence for anatma. So now we have to understand a little bit, one more concept. What is atma? There are three things we talk about atma. Have you heard of that term? Sat Chitananda.
Yes.
Atma is known as Sat Chit Ananda. Don't think that these are attributes of Atma. Atma do not have any attributes. So Sat means what?
Existence.
Existence. Chit means
Knowledge.
consciousness. Ananda means limitless happiness.
Yes.
Now, bliss is a little bit different. You can be blissful with alcohol also. That's not we are talking. So let's unpack and discuss these two. Happiness is the natural property of Atma. If you are connected with Atma, you don't need anything else to be happy. So to answer your question earlier, I said like a mental state alpha is going to give you happiness. Correct?
Mhm.
And I said like a BMW or a movie or the smile of your child is only a trigger that transition your mind to that state alpha. If that is the case, hence if you know the alpha directly, you'll be happy always. At least take it as a hypothesis for the time being. Existence means what? Yeah, 4 minutes more. We'll just talk about that, but we'll pick up the thread next week and we'll continue that. Probably it is better to pick up next week because it will not end. Let me recap. It saw two verses. The first verse said, if you want to get the highest experience of life, which is freedom from all suffering, first quality you have to develop is titiksha. And what is the beauty of that titiksha? You will be able to face any situations. The situations will come and go, but you will not be toast within that situation. Right? You will be firm to handle that. Without that, you cannot get that. And mind you, this is a prerequisite for any material goal also. If you want to go higher in your life, any person, you have to be strong. I told you, Bharatra Hari would say, what? When the fire is small, any passing wind will put out the fire. But if the fire is big, the wind will come and say, come on, let's go to the next house. Together. The same wind. The word principle is what? Bully the weak. Parlay the strong. So you have to be strong. And without this, you cannot be strong. Okay. So that we saw, such a person is fit for the highest goals of life. The next topic we saw was, Krishna wanted to give what exactly is Atma. That is the topic. Because we have been talking about these two, Atma and Anatma. What is Atma? He said, the true existence in yourself is Atma. And what is the characteristics of that Atma? That is the existence, the true existence. That Atma do not have any non-existence at any period of time. So if you identify yourself with Anatma, understand that your existence is a borrowed existence. That's what we saw, and we'll little bit more, we'll see this verse. And from now to verse 25, there's a difference between this Atma and Anatma. And then the yoga part is what? How to get connected with that Atma. That's it. It's very systematic way. And this verses, right? This and the next verse, you would see whether you are sitting in a modern physics class. Like I would quote string theory. I would quote Einstein a few times next week, and we will talk about this. Especially you're taking some.
One question I have is something connected with this, but when we chant Satoma Satgamaya, right? It is-
Correct. That's what.
So why are we chanting that? Why are we saying let my Asat becomes Sat.
No, we're not saying that to become, right? So lead, right now my identification is with Asat. So Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritamgamaya. So I'm praying to Lord, what? Lead me from Asat to Sat. Right now I'm identifying myself with Asat. If I'm attached to the ornament, ring, tomorrow that ring will cease to exist. Right? So lead me from my identification from being an Asat to Sat. Expand my awareness. Then what is going to happen? I will be leading myself from tamas to light. Because when I am in tamas, when my understanding is clouded, I always connected with the anatma. And finally, when I connected with the anatma, I am mortal. But when I connect with the atma, mrityorma, it's a wonderful prayer. Okay, so that's good. So we will continue next week. This is very, look at the level of profundity, right? At that time, nobody had talked about conservation of matter. Nobody talked about conservation of theory, energy. String theory was never even thought about that. At that time, you have this type of wonderful concept. Not concept, this is truth. Yep. Okay, thank you. We'll continue. 2-3 minutes break and we'll continue Yoga Nidra.